Sometimes history isn't shaped by kings, generals, or revolutions, but by a pigeon flying through gunfire, seagulls devouring a plague of crickets, or a cat that survived 3 shipwrecks. A dog carries life-saving medicine through a blizzard, a parrot repeats the final words of a murder, and a whale changes the world simply by refusing to move. Silent steps, trembling wings, a small act in the dark, and humanity is never the same again. What if I told you that at history's greatest turning points, the signature was sometimes a paw print, a claw mark, or the sweep of a wing? Our journey begins with wings, not swords. Hey friends, dim the lights and tuck in. In 1918, amid the chaos of World War I, nearly 500 American soldiers were trapped behind enemy lines in France, surrounded, starving, and mistakenly bombarded by their own artillery. They had only one hope: carrier pigeons. The last pigeon sent, Cher Ami, was struck by enemy fire. Her breast was torn open, one eye blinded, a leg dangling by a thread, but the message capsule was still attached. She flew 25 miles in just over 25 minutes, delivering the location of the trapped battalion. Thanks to her, 194 men were saved. You might be wondering, how could something so fragile carry a war on her back? But there she was, feathers soaked, tiny heart beating fast, collapsing upon arrival. For her service, Cher Ami was awarded the Croix de Guerre and preserved in the Smithsonian. Soft cooing echoes in your mind now, doesn't it? As if each flap of her wings whispered, "Hold on, I'll get us out." So next time you see a pigeon, consider, would you fly into gunfire for strangers? You are now stepping into the sun-bleached sands of northern Africa around 218 BCE. Imagine the earth trembling under a thunderous rhythm not of drums but of elephants. Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general, stunned the ancient world by marching 37 war elephants over the Alps into Italy to attack the mighty Roman Empire. No one thought it could be done. Snowy passes, steep cliffs, frigid rivers. But the elephants, especially the famed Surus, Hannibal's last and largest, endured it all. Their towering presence shattered enemy lines, spooked horses, and trampled Roman arrogance. It wasn't just brute strength. These elephants carried entire strategies. When Hannibal camped, they blocked approaches. In battle, they flanked and pierced formations. They were military units in themselves, living, snorting siege towers. You can almost hear the crunch of snow beneath giant feet. Feel the heat of their breath in mountain air, that blend of cold and courage. Though the Carthaginians ultimately lost the war, Hannibal's elephants left a hoofprint on military history. Strange to think, isn't it, that an empire's greatest threat once moved forward, on 4 colossal legs. Hey friends, time to wrap yourself in a cozy blanket of surprise. Wojtek wasn't your average soldier. He was a Syrian brown bear, adopted by Polish troops during World War II. At first, he was just a cub, drinking condensed milk from a vodka bottle. But soon, Wojtek began wrestling with troops, learning their ways, even saluting with his paw. In the Battle of Monte Cassino, he carried heavy crates of ammunition across open fire lines, never flinching. His strength and calm inspired his unit so much that they officially enlisted him. Rank, private, pay, double rations. The Polish army even redesigned their emblem, a bear carrying a shell. Imagine a massive, shaggy soldier lumbering through smoky trenches. Quiet, steady, loyal. As if history itself gave the soldiers a furry guardian when they needed hope most. After the war, Wojtek retired in Scotland, living peacefully until 1963, beloved by all, especially children. Now close your eyes. Picture him resting on his back in the grass, sunlight warming his fur. A soldier who never spoke yet told 1,000 stories just by standing beside his men. What makes a hero, you wonder? Sometimes it's paws, not boots. You are right now standing in the grand marble halls of Russia's Hermitage Museum. Under the gilded ceilings and silent oil paintings, an unlikely protector guards the treasures. Cats. Dozens of them. For over 250 years, they've kept the museum safe, not from thieves, but from mice and rats. Empress Elizabeth of Russia declared cats official staff in the 18th century. During World War II, when Leningrad was under siege and cats disappeared, rats took over, damaging priceless artwork. After the siege, the first order? Bring back the cats. During World War II, when Leningrad was under siege and cats disappeared, rats took over, damaging priceless artwork. After the siege, the first order? Bring back the cats. In padded silence, they returned to work, slipping between marble columns, nestling in Baroque corners, restoring a balance no museum alarm could replicate. Today they still live there. Some even have employee ID cards. You can almost hear their soft footsteps echoing in the dusk-lit galleries, tails swaying beside Rembrandts and Rubens, quiet curators with whiskers, with "Funny, isn't it?" The Hermitage owes its safety not just to guards in uniform, but to purring shadows. So if you ever walk through that silent museum and feel something brush your leg, it might be history's gentlest watchman. Dear listeners, take a deep breath. Tonight's story floats weightless. In 1957, a small stray dog from the streets of Moscow made her way into the sky. Her name was Laika, and she became the first animal to orbit Earth aboard Sputnik 2. She had no choice. Scientists chose her because she was quiet, patient, and disposable. There was no plan for her return. Still, Laika's heart beat boldly as she left the world below. For a brief moment, she saw what no human had yet seen. Our planet, suspended in black velvet silence. Her sacrifice reshaped the space race. Without Laika, human spaceflight would have stalled. Her data helped design life support systems and launch protocols. In later years, Russian scientists built memorials to her. A bronze dog peeking from a rocket-shaped monument. A small statue at a cosmonaut training center. Laika didn't bark in protest. She just listened to the hum of machines, the heartbeat of Earth, the vastness of space. Now, look up. Somewhere in that night sky, her story still circles quietly. And maybe, just maybe, she knew she was part of something larger. Hey friends, if this series is lighting little candles of wonder in your heart, don't forget to subscribe. We've got many more animal miracles to explore. You are now tracing steel tracks across the American frontier. Before engines roared and locomotives hissed, there was old Dave, a sturdy horse from the 1830s. While the world awaited steam power, one early mining railroad in Pennsylvania used horse-drawn carts to move coal. Old Dave wasn't just a workhorse. He memorized schedules, pulled carts precisely. If workers were late, he waited. If they were early, he neighed until someone opened the gate. Then something remarkable happened. Old Dave became the only railway employee allowed to work alone. Each morning, he walked to the yard, hauled coal down a 9-mile stretch, and returned without human help. He did this for years, day in, day out. When steam engines replaced horsepower, they held a small ceremony. Old Dave retired in honor. His name appeared in local newspapers as the horse who once ran the rails. Imagine hooves clacking gently along iron rails, steam not yet invented, but progress already trotting forward. Somewhere between muscle and memory, old Dave taught us that movement didn't need machines, just heart. Hey friends, close your eyes for a moment. Now imagine hearing sonar and laughter. In the 1960s, during tense Cold War years, the U.S. Navy noticed something strange. Their submarine sensors in Hawaii were being tampered with. Not by enemy divers or foreign craft, but by a curious bottlenose dolphin named Tuffy. Tuffy had been trained for naval missions, but he often improvised. He once delivered tools to trapped divers when machines failed. Another time, he located a lost person in murky waters, faster than radar. His most famous act? Communicating with a submerged submarine over 200 feet deep, delivering gear back and forth, even when visibility was zero. Unlike humans, Tuffy didn't panic under pressure. He followed clicks and vibrations, dancing between propellers and steel walls like it was a coral reef. Eventually, he helped design the future of underwater rescue, not with blueprints, but with trust and instinct. And now, when you think of deep-sea missions or undersea wires humming, remember that once, it was a dolphin who whispered through the waves. Isn't that something? Intelligence doesn't always need a lab coat. You are now standing on a dusty patch of Texan soil in the mid-1800s. The sun is high, tempers higher. A rooster struts proudly between two rival ranches. No ordinary bird. This one is prized for cockfighting, fiercely guarded by its owner. One day, the rooster disappears. The neighboring ranch is blamed. Harsh words are traded. Accusations fly like feathers. Then a gun is drawn. What began as a squabble over poultry erupted into the Sutton-Taylor feud, one of Texas's bloodiest conflicts. Dozens were killed. Alliances shattered. It stretched on for years, all because of one missing rooster. No one knows what actually happened to the bird. Did it wander off? Was it stolen? Or simply eaten by coyotes? The rooster never testified. You can almost hear him now, scratching dirt, oblivious to the dominoes falling behind him. A living matchstick to a powder keg. History often blames kings or generals, but sometimes it's a bird with attitude. So next time you see a rooster crow at dawn, maybe ask yourself, what drama did it unknowingly inspire? Dear listener, wrap yourself in a thick wool blanket. We're heading south, far, far south. In 1911, Roald Amundson's expedition to the South Pole beat the British team by weeks. The secret? Not sled design, not food, dogs. While the British used ponies and man-hauling, Amundsen trusted his team of Greenland huskies. They were strong, fast, and born for snow. Their instincts knew when ice was cracking. They could smell danger in the wind. Each step closer to the pole was etched by paw prints. When Amundsen reached his goal, he planted a flag, but the dogs had earned it too. They didn't pose for photos or write journals. They just ran, ate, slept, and ran again. Some gave their lives. Others returned as heroes. And when modern explorers study survival strategies, they still marvel at how one decision, dogs over ponies, changed the race forever. Now, breathe in the cold. Feel the crunch of frost beneath fur-lined boots. Listen for a soft pant in the wind. In the silent white of Antarctica, it wasn't a compass that led the way. It was loyalty on 4 legs. Hey friends, let's step gently into the story of a little life that reached high altitudes. In 1949, before humans dared go to space, the U.S. launched a rhesus monkey named Albert II aboard a V-2 rocket. Strapped into a small capsule, heart monitored, breath shallow, Albert became the first mammal to reach space. He soared 83 miles above Earth. Then came the fall. The parachute failed. Albert II died on impact. But here's the twist. His sacrifice wasn't in vain. Data from his flight proved that mammals could survive spaceflight. His heartbeat, pressure levels, oxygen use, it all helped shape future missions. Without him, human astronauts might never have left Earth. He was just a monkey. Curious eyes, gentle hands, no medals, no fanfare. Yet in 1997, a group of students placed a plaque in New Mexico near the launch site. It reads, Albert II, the first space monkey, a pioneer. Now picture him floating briefly above the Earth, seeing what no one else had. Sometimes history is changed not by intention, but by presence. And as you drift into dreams, maybe think of Albert, not falling but still flying. Still. Hey friends, settle in and picture a quiet palace garden in ancient India. In the Mughal court of Emperor Akbar, pets were often symbolic. Peacocks for beauty, elephants for strength. But one animal earned its place not through symbolism, but action. A small, sleek mongoose named Baz Bahadur. One afternoon, as the emperor dozed in the shade, a cobra slithered near. Silent, venomous. The guards froze, too afraid to move. But Baz Bahadur didn't hesitate. In a blur, he leapt forward, twisted midair, and attacked the snake head-on. It was over in seconds. The emperor opened his eyes to find a dead cobra and a very proud mongoose standing guard. From that day on, mongooses were kept in the palace not just as pets, but as protectors. You can almost hear the rustle of dry leaves, the twitch of whiskers, the sudden snap of instinct saving an empire. Sometimes it's not the size of the animal, but the speed of its heart. And in the end, even emperors sleep more soundly when a mongoose is watching. You are now drifting in the cold waters off the Pacific coast, early 19th century. A young whaler named Thomas Nickerson sails aboard the Essex, a ship destined to inspire Moby Dick. One day, the unthinkable happens. A sperm whale, 85 feet long, rams the vessel. Not once, twice. The ship sinks. The crew floats for months, facing starvation. But Nickerson, only a teenager, survives. Years later, he can't forget the whale's eyes. Not wild, not furious, just aware. As if the ocean itself had spoken through a creature. The event shattered public perception. Could whales be intelligent? Could they feel threatened? Writers like Melville were haunted by that idea. In time, the story of that whale shifted human thought, from conquest to conservation. It was a turning point. Now imagine the ripple of a tail beneath your boat, the deep exhale of a blowhole, the weight of presence in still water, all from a whale who said, "Enough." And perhaps, when you next hear a whale song on a nature channel, you'll remember that a single breach once rewrote the ethics of an entire industry. Hey friends, you might want to scoot back in your pillows. This story sparks softly but burns brightly. It's 1871 in Chicago. Night falls, lanterns flicker, and in a small barn owned by the O'Leary family, a cow named Daisy kicks over a lamp. That's how the Great Chicago Fire began. At least, that's the legend. Flames leapt from hay to beams, from barn to block. The city burned for 2 days. Over 17,000 buildings gone. The skyline turned to ash. Daisy never intended to be famous or blamed. Historians now debate whether she even existed. But the tale stuck, turning one gentle cow into a fire starter in textbooks and songs. And strangely, the aftermath birthed something beautiful. Chicago rebuilt with steel and stone. Skyscrapers emerged. Modern firefighting systems were born. Imagine Daisy now, quietly chewing her cud in a field of forgetfulness, unaware that her name is still whispered in fire drills. So did she kick the lantern? Maybe, maybe not. But she reminds us that sometimes the flick of a tail can alter the shape of a skyline. You are standing beneath Utah's endless blue sky, summer of 1848. The Mormon pioneers, new to the valley, had planted their first crops. But just as hope sprouted, so did crickets, black, swarming, insatiable. They devoured everything. The settlers prayed. Then came a sound, soft, steady. Wings. Thousands of seagulls arrived. They feasted on the crickets day after day, purging the land. The crops survived. It became known as the miracle of the gulls. Every year, the state of Utah honors those birds. A monument stands in Salt Lake City, bronze gulls mid-flight, mouths open, catching salvation in the air. You can almost hear the flurry of feathers. Picture children watching, mouths agape, as divine help arrived not on horseback but in the form of seabirds. In faith, in famine, in folklore, sometimes the answer falls from the sky. And maybe the next time you see a seagull, you'll think not of beach fries, but of a miracle in feathers. Hey friends, dim the lights. We're about to hear how one snout nearly started a war. 1859, San Juan Island. Britain and America both claim it. Tensions simmer. Enter the pig. It wandered from a British farm into an American potato patch. The American farmer shot it. The British neighbor demanded compensation. The U.S. refused. Soon troops were deployed. Warships arrived. Cannons were loaded over a pig. Diplomats finally stepped in. They drafted what became known as the Pig War Treaty. No bullets were fired. Both sides backed down. The pig? Buried quietly without honors, but his legacy lives. You can almost see him now. Just a curious creature, snuffling for food, unaware he was walking a border. It's said sometimes war starts over gold or glory. But peace? Peace once started with a pig. You are now peering into a lush English garden during World War II. A young woman named Joan Clark is watching bees, their patterns, their roots, their dances. She's not a beekeeper, she's a mathematician. And soon, she'll work at Bletchley Park, cracking Nazi codes beside Alan Turing. What do bees have to do with codes? Joan said their flight paths helped her understand probability. Their waggle dances mirrored information transfer. Observation became intuition. Her gift helped shorten the war by years. Imagine a garden where flowers aren't just blooming, they're guiding a mind toward the greatest decryption in history. Bees, tiny and humble, taught a human how to think like a machine, or perhaps better than one. So next time a bee zigzags past you, remember, it may carry more than pollen. Hey friends, lean in a little closer. This one's a whisper of feathers and justice. In 1993 in Michigan, a man was found dead in his home, no witnesses, no suspects, except one. His pet parrot, Bud, kept repeating, "Don't fucking shoot." Investigators grew curious. The man's wife became the prime suspect. Bud's cries eerily mimicked arguments overheard before the shooting. Though parrots aren't admissible in court, the attention Bud drew led to a confession. The case closed. Bud lived on, repeating phrases of that terrible night. A living recording. You can almost hear it now, his voice echoing in a dim living room, wings fluttering softly as if stirring ghosts. Parrots don't lie. They remember. And sometimes, they solve what humans can't. You are now on the remote island of St. Helena. The breeze smells of salt and silence. There lives a tortoise named Jonathan. Born in the early 1830s, he's lived through the fall of empires, 2 world wars, and the rise of smartphones. He's now over 190 years old, the oldest known living land animal. When he hatched, Napoleon had just died. Photography hadn't been invented. Electricity wasn't in homes. Jonathan's diet is soft fruits now. He can't see well, but he knows the scent of morning figs. People visit just to meet him, to stand beside living memory. Imagine that. Wisdom in wrinkled skin, history tucked into a slow heartbeat. Jonathan reminds us, fast doesn't always win. Sometimes it's the stillness that survives. Dear listeners, let's step softly into the hills of Gallipoli, 1915. An Australian medic named John Simpson rescued the wounded. His partner? A small donkey named Duffy. Day after day under fire, Duffy carried injured men down steep ridges to safety. No bridle, no whip, just trust. Simpson was killed after weeks, but Duffy continued his work with other medics. To this day, statues in Australia honor Simpson and his donkey, a tribute not just to a soldier, but to the gentle animal who bore human pain. Listen closely. You might hear the echo of hooves on dusty stone, steady and sure. Courage, it turns out, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it brays. Hey friends, breathe easy. Our final story tonight might surprise you with its sweetness. In Cambodia, landmines still litter the countryside. Enter Magawa, a giant pouched rat trained to sniff them out. Light enough not to trigger the mines, Magawa safely cleared over 100,000 square meters in his career. That's 20 football fields. He worked gently, patiently. One scratch meant found something. He was never wrong. In 2020, Magawa was awarded a gold medal for bravery, the first rat to receive such honor. Now picture him scurrying across a field, tail swaying, nose twitching, not just for food, but to save lives. Small feat, big legacy. Hey friends, if you love this series, don't forget to subscribe. The quiet heroes still have many stories left to tell. Hey friends, you are now aboard a wooden warship rocking gently on 18th century waves. Meet Trim, a black and white cat born on the HMS Reliance during Captain Matthew Flinders' voyage to circumnavigate Australia. From kittenhood, Trim proved extraordinary. He could climb rigging, balance on swaying rails, and always return when called. Trim wasn't just a companion, he was a morale booster. Sailors believed he brought good luck. When the ship ran short on food, Trim caught rats. When they faced storms, Trim curled up beside the men, calm as moonlight. In captivity, after Flinders was imprisoned by the French on Mauritius, Trim remained loyal. He stayed by the captain's side for years, until one day he vanished. Locals whispered he'd been taken, possibly eaten. Flinders mourned him as a comrade. He later wrote a eulogy, the best and most illustrious of his race. Can you picture it? A tiny tail flicking against the wind, a soft paw steadying a sailor's sleeve. Courage wrapped in fur. Trim's statue now stands in Sydney, forever watching the sea he once conquered, without compass or map. So next time you see a ship's cat curled near the wheel, remember, some captains wear whiskers. Dear listeners, dim the lights and tune your thoughts to silence. In the 1930s, scientist Donald Griffin made a quiet discovery. He watched bats in total darkness, darting, dipping, dodging obstacles without sight. How? He placed a microphone near their flight path and heard it. Clicks, chirps, bursts of ultrasonic sound. Bats were using sonar, echolocation. They saw with sound. Griffin's findings inspired radar research just as World War II loomed. Engineers mimicked the bats' signals to design systems for submarines and planes. What began as curiosity about flying mammals became the cornerstone of modern navigation. Now picture it. A bat flitting across a moonlit cave, guiding unseen machines in future skies. The rustle of wings, the soundless pulse of perception. That little creature fluttering overhead taught us how to listen more than see. And maybe next time you hear a chirp in the dark, you'll know. Wisdom sometimes wears wings. You are now walking across the Mojave Desert in 1857. Sand, silence, and sun. Ahead, a strange sight. Not horses, not wagons, but camels. The U.S. Army launched the Camel Corps experiment, importing dozens of dromedaries from the Middle East to carry supplies. The camels could go days without water, trek steep terrain, and carry hundreds of pounds. One stood out, High Jolly, a camel led by a Syrian handler of the same name. Together, they blazed trails no wagon had dared. But the experiment was short-lived. Soldiers disliked the smell. Horses panicked at the sight of camels. Eventually, the program was abandoned. High Jolly's camel roamed free for years, becoming a desert legend. Locals swore it was immortal, wandering between sand dunes like a ghost of lost ambition. Today, a stone pyramid in Quartzsite, Arizona, honors both man and beast. You can almost feel the warm wind brushing past leathered skin, the slow rhythm of padded feet on burning stone. Sometimes history tries new shapes, and once it chose a hump. Hey friends, prepare for a quiet ripple in time. A clone named Dolly. In 1996, scientists in Scotland achieved what was once unthinkable. They cloned a mammal, not from an embryo, but from an adult cell. The result? Dolly the sheep. She looked like any other ewe. Soft wool, dark eyes, gentle bleat. But within her was the echo of another life. Her birth sparked global debates: ethics, identity, the meaning of reproduction. And yet, Dolly remained unfazed. She grazed. She nuzzled. She lived a quiet farm life, unaware she was history wrapped in fleece. She opened doors to genetic research, stem cells, and regenerative medicine. Now, close your eyes. Picture a green Scottish hillside, mist curling over fields. A sheep stands alone, not alone in body, but mirrored in biology. Science often begins with silence, and once that silence bleated softly. You are now standing on the Capitoline Hill, 390 BCE. Night falls. All is still. Rome is under siege by the Gauls. The last defenders sleep. But above, in the temple of Juno, geese stir. They sense movement, hear footsteps. Suddenly they honk, loud and frantic. Soldiers wake just in time to repel a surprise attack. Those sacred geese, kept for rituals, had become sentinels. Their alarm saved the city. Rome never forgot. A yearly festival, the Supplicia Canum, punished dogs for failing to bark and honored geese for their cries. Imagine the sharp echo of honks in marble halls, feathers ruffled against night wind. Sometimes history is held not by walls but by wings. Hey friends, let's fast forward to 2009, into the jungle of Borneo. A curious macaque snatches a wildlife camera. Snap, snap. The monkey, fascinated by its reflection, takes a series of selfies. One photo shows a toothy grin, eyes wide. It goes viral. Debates erupt. Who owns the photo? The monkey? The photographer? The jungle? The monkey selfie sparked global legal debates about animal rights and intellectual property. Courts wrestled with questions no one had asked before. And the monkey? Still grinning somewhere in the trees. You can almost hear the shutter click, leaves rustling above, laughter echoing across digital timelines. One press of a button, and the internet changed forever. You are now deep in Kenyan grasslands, 1989. Sunlight spills over the savannah. Her name was Echo, a matriarch. She led her herd for over 3 decades, guiding them through drought, danger, and birth. Researchers followed her for years. Her intelligence stunned them. She mourned. She celebrated. She remembered. When poaching rose, Echo's story became a symbol. Documentaries showed her tending calves, resisting trauma. She became the face of anti-ivory campaigns. In 1989, Kenya burned its ivory stockpile, a fiery message to the world. Echo's herd survived, because stories change laws, and Echo's was unforgettable. Now, imagine her massive ears flapping gently in dusk, her trunk cradling a child. Elephants never forget, and neither should we. Hey friends, take a deep breath. We're traveling to 1812 Russia. As Napoleon's army retreated from Moscow, chaos reigned. Supplies ran low, horses perished. But one supply cart carried an unusual stowaway, a young bear, once gifted by Polish allies as a mascot. When French lines collapsed, soldiers scattered, but the bear survived. Witnesses later claimed it followed troops, stealing food, dodging gunfire, even frightening enemies. No one knows what became of it, but stories of Napoleon's bear live on in Russian folktales, of a shaggy ghost trailing the broken Grande Armée. You can almost see it now, lumbering across snow, smoke curling from wreckage behind. War ends, myths remain, and sometimes they're covered in fur. You are now in Rabbit Hash, Kentucky. Population, tiny. Spirit, large. In 1998, the town elected a black Labrador named Goofy as honorary mayor. It wasn't a joke. It was a celebration of charm over politics. Goofy greeted tourists, rode in parades, boosted local business. Goofy greeted tourists, rode in parades, boosted local business. After Goofy passed, more dogs were elected. Lucy Liu, Gwyneth Paltrow, Wilbur Beast. These canine mares brought joy, unity, and national press. You can almost hear the jingle of a collar on town hall steps, the scratch of paws signing pawtographs. In a divided world, sometimes the best leader just wags its tail. Hey friends, settle in for a ripple in time. In 1953, a marine biologist studying parrotfish noticed something peculiar. Their sleep cycle matched the tides, not the sun. The fish would wake before the sun rose, stir before moonlight. Scientists began rethinking circadian rhythms. Maybe our inner clocks weren't just solar. They were lunar, tidal, evolutionary. That tiny fish swimming among coral helped reshape how we understand sleep, productivity, even jet lag. Imagine it now. Colors shimmering in reef light, tail brushing soft sand, sensing time by the sea's breath. Sometimes the clock ticks not from above, but from below. Hey friends, dim the lights and imagine a petri dish quietly changing the world. In 1928, Alexander Fleming returned from vacation to find mold growing in his lab. Oddly, the mold killed the surrounding bacteria. That mold would later be known as penicillin. But before it saved lives, it needed testing. Enter a tiny, whiskered test subject, a mouse. Scientists injected the mouse with deadly bacteria, then treated it with penicillin. The mouse lived. That moment sparked a chain of discoveries leading to antibiotics, transforming medicine forever. You can almost feel the cool steel of the lab bench, the quiet tension of observation, the breath of one small survivor. Without that little mouse, millions might never have lived to tell their own stories. Sometimes, it only takes one heartbeat to begin a cure. You are now aboard the HMS Cossack, 1941. War rages across oceans. Aboard sails a black and white cat named Oscar, later known as Unsinkable Sam. He survived the sinking of the Bismarck, then was rescued by the British. The Cossack sank too. Sam floated again. Finally, aboard the Ark Royal, yet another torpedo struck. Sam made it ashore. Again, 3 wrecks, 1 cat, 9 lives stretched to myth. Sailors began to whisper that Sam carried luck. Though whether good or bad, no one agreed. He retired in Gibraltar, peacefully fed and adored. Can you imagine him now, curled in a basket, staring at the sea he'd crossed too many times? Some souls wander, others survive, and some, like Sam, simply refuse to sink. Hey friends, lean in for a curious tale of feathers and firearms. In 1806, 2 politicians in England, George Canning and Lord Castlereagh, faced off in a duel over political betrayal. Only one witness wasn't sworn to secrecy, a parrot. Owned by a nearby noblewoman, the parrot heard the shots. Days later, it began repeating the word bang, followed by oh dear, oh dear. Visitors were baffled. The duel had been kept secret. Eventually, the bird's cries gave away the event, forcing political admissions. Now picture the parrot perched in a gilded cage, mimicking history's tension, unwittingly revealing whispers in Parliament. Gossip travels fast, but sometimes it flies. You are now in 19th century Ethiopia, the air thick with heat and prayer. A missionary named Robert Napier had been taken hostage. When soldiers tried to execute him, something happened. 3 lions appeared, silent, unafraid, and positioned themselves between the missionary and his captors. The guards fled. Locals believed the lions were divine messengers. Napier lived. He later claimed it wasn't courage that saved him. It was grace in fur. Imagine golden eyes glowing in morning light, the hush of paws on dry earth, a presence that didn't roar, only stood. In nature, protection sometimes arrives without warning or sound. Hey friends, you might not believe this, but a horse once made people question art. In early 20th century Germany, a horse named Hans could tap his hoof to answer math problems, or so people thought. Crowds gathered, papers were written. Could animals understand numbers? Eventually, scientists discovered Hans wasn't solving problems. He was reading micro-expressions from his trainer. Hans had revealed a new phenomenon, the clever Hans effect. It reshaped how researchers test animals and humans. You can almost hear the tap, tap, pause of curiosity made visible. Hans didn't do math. He did something better. He taught us how much we unconsciously say. You are now floating above France. World War I. Fog blankets the ground. A British pilot watches birds below. A V formation of geese rises, startled, scattering. That's when the pilot realizes movement on the ground. He circles back. A hidden German battery lies in wait. Thanks to the geese's sudden flight, the pilot alerts command. The position is bombed before it can fire. No medals were awarded to the birds, but they saved lives. Imagine the flutter of wings against dawn, patterns shifting in silent code. Flight speaks volumes if you know how to watch. Hey friends, step softly into a Roman arena. An elephant stands, armored, trained for battle. But something shifts. At the trumpet, it doesn't charge, it kneels. The crowd falls silent. No command can move it. The animal simply lowers itself, trunk down, as if in prayer. Historians still debate the moment. Was it fear, rebellion, a message? That elephant was spared, and in time Roman officials rethought their use of war animals. One small act of refusal rippled through military history. Now picture it. Dust swirling, metal clanking, a hush falling over 1,000 spectators. Sometimes resistance makes no noise at all. You are now beside a coastal lagoon in ancient Greece. Fishermen speak of a turtle, massive, scarred, old as myths. It swims the same pattern each year. One cartographer notices, sketches its path. That path mirrors hidden currents, and soon trade routes follow it. The turtle's instincts become part of early navigation. Sailors watch for its shell gliding beneath clear waves, like a compass made of flesh and time. No charts, no stars, just memory. And in the sea's silence, it turns again. Some maps aren't written, they are swum. Hey friends, take a gentle breath. We're entering the stones of 12th century Spain. In the town of Burgos, a massive cathedral was being built. Stones had to be hauled uphill daily. One donkey, gray, small, stubborn, refused to follow the trail. Instead, it chose a longer route with easier incline. At first mocked, the donkey's path proved better. Soon, others followed. It became known as the Pilgrim's Curve. Builders saved energy. The donkey saved time. There's no statue, no name remembered. But part of the cathedral's shape came from hooves. Even in stone, animals leave their imprint. You are now in California, 1937. A man tosses a pie tin. His dog leaps, catches it midair. Crowds stop to watch. That dog, named Sailor, loved catching flying discs. His owner, Walter Morrison, saw more than fun. He saw invention. Years later, he developed a plastic disc. It flew better. It sold. He called it the Pluto Platter. Later, Wham-O renamed it the Frisbee. Now imagine a wagging tail, paws skidding across grass, joy spinning through the sky. One leap of play became a global game. Sometimes innovation begins with fetch. Hey friends, you are now strolling the moors of 18th century England. In 1726, a woman named Mary Toft made a bizarre claim she had given birth to rabbits. Doctors, priests, and nobles all flocked to see her. One surgeon delivered the remains of a rabbit fetus. Another saw fur, organs, hooves. It was declared a miracle, or a curse. Soon, the truth surfaced. Toft had been inserting dead rabbits herself, but the damage was done. Public trust in medicine collapsed. Surgeons were mocked. Royal reputations tumbled. The event forced the medical field to rethink how they verified evidence, ushering in early skepticism and scientific rigor. And the rabbits? Innocent victims of a hoax that reshaped science. Imagine soft fur brushing against tall grass, unaware they were ever part of a national hysteria. Sometimes history hops into our stories in the most unexpected ways. You are now in South Africa, late 1800s. Trains clatter, telegraphs hum. In the rail yard, a man with wooden legs runs switches flawlessly, with help from his assistant. a baboon named Jack. Jack was trained by James Wide to operate levers, carry messages, and signal oncoming trains. At first, authorities were skeptical, but after a test run, they were stunned. Jack never made a mistake, not once. He was officially hired, given rations, a number, a job. For 9 years, he served on the tracks. You can almost see him now, perched by the control booth, watching wheels turn like stars. In a world of industry and steel, a monkey once kept time. And trains ran on schedule because of Jack. Dear listeners, breathe in the scent of honey. In ancient Egypt, bees weren't just insects. They were sacred. Pharaohs wore crowns with bees engraved, symbolizing unity and order. Legend says the first bee came from the tears of Ra, the sun god. Its honey nourished life. Its sting punished evil. Apis mellifera, the honeybee, was domesticated, worshipped, and used as currency. Pharaoh Pepi II even sent expeditions south to gather wild honey. That sticky gold-sweetened trade, healing and ritual. Imagine it now. The hum of bees in temple gardens, sunlight pouring over clay hives, sweetness dripping into alabaster jars. Empires rose on bricks and bees, and long before machines, it was wings that fed civilization. Hey friends, tilt your ears toward a country sunrise. In ancient Rome, before bells, sundials, or alarms, there was the rooster. So reliable was its crow at dawn that Romans synchronized rituals around it. Markets opened, armies awoke, temples rang incense by its call. Even today, in French, Italian, and Japanese, the rooster is tied to mourning. Its cry a reminder that time still listens to animals. Some roosters became local celebrities, known for punctuality or peculiar crowing. Can you hear it? That steady cock-a-doodle-doo echoing across tiled roofs and dusty courtyards. In a way, your alarm clock still sings with feathers. You are now in Cyprus, 4th century CE. Snakes have overrun a monastery. Monks pray for protection. One day a boat arrives, filled not with soldiers but cats, hundreds of them. The cats are released, and over time the snake population vanishes. The monastery survives. From then on, cats are cared for as holy guardians. Some monasteries even ring bells to summon them to meals. To this day, in Cyprus, some monastic communities still host feline caretakers, descendants of divine pest control. Now imagine paws on ancient stone, eyes glowing in candlelight, silence but for a purr. Holiness, it seems, sometimes comes on 4 quiet feet. Hey friends, take a slow step into medieval Korea. King Taejo, founder of the Joseon dynasty, sought a new capital. He wanted a sign, something the land itself would choose. So, he tied a sacred ox to a cart and let it wander. Day after day, the ox trudged north, finally stopping in a fertile valley between mountains and river. That place became Hanyang, modern-day Seoul. The ox was honored, fed, and remembered in royal records. Imagine hoofprints pressed into morning dew, a quiet creature pulling not just a cart, but destiny. Cities often begin with blueprints, but this one began with a breath and a bray. You are now swimming along the coast of Florida, 1960s. A dolphin named Peter is being studied for intelligence. Scientists try to teach him English. He bonds deeply with researcher Margaret. They play, share rhythms, respond to tones. Though the project ends controversially, Peter's behavior changes everything. He mimics laughter, expresses sadness, craves companionship. Peter's story helps shift scientific views, from animals as machines to beings with emotional lives. Now dolphins are recognized as sentient, protected differently, studied with care. Imagine that smooth gray shape beneath the water. A click, a swirl, a question in sonar. Understanding doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it surfaces. Hey friends, settle into the rolling hills of 18th century Wales. In 1775, the Royal Welsh Fusiliers adopted a goat named William, not as a mascot, but as a member of the regiment. At the Battle of Bunker Hill, William refused to move forward. Soldiers hesitated. Some called it cowardice. Others, prophecy. The troops held back. Moments later, a surprise ambush appeared. Had they marched, they might have been slaughtered. William was given a rank. He later received ceremonial rations and medals. To this day, the regiment maintains a goat, uniformed, respected, led on parade. Imagine those curved horns and wise, calm eyes watching a battlefield unfold. Sometimes survival follows a bleat. You are now deep underground in a coal shaft. Lanterns flicker. Air tightens. A small cage hangs beside a pickaxe. Inside, a yellow canary flutters. These birds were early gas detectors, sensitive to carbon monoxide. When they stopped singing, miners knew to run. Canaries saved countless lives. Their silence warned of invisible death. Today we say canary in the coal mine as a metaphor, but once it was literal. You can almost feel the tremble of wings, the soft chirp swallowed by stone, small breath, big warning, and in the dark, the tiniest voices kept hope alive. Dear listeners, we close this chapter with something timeless. In 1986, a blind man named Bob captured global hearts by playing harmonica for an elephant named Shirley at a Tennessee sanctuary. She remembered him. Decades had passed. She had been taken from the circus, blinded, forgotten. But when Bob played that same tune, soft and slow, Shirley swayed. She leaned in. Elephants, it turns out, remember people. Faces, voices, songs. Their grief echoes. Their joy sings. Shirley's story helped ignite sanctuary reforms, inspiring kinder retirement for performing animals. So let the music play in your memory too, because sometimes the soul hears what the eyes forget. Hey friends, dim the lights and picture a green blur flitting through a quiet lab. His name was Alex, an African gray parrot. For 30 years he worked alongside scientist Irene Pepperberg, not as a subject but a partner. Alex could identify colors, shapes, and numbers. He understood same and different. He even asked for banana when hungry. When researchers doubted animals could understand language, Alex spelled out a new future, word by word, squawk by squawk. Before he passed, his last words were, "You be good, I love you." Now imagine his claws tapping gently on the edge of a perch, his head tilted with thoughtful eyes. He didn't just mimic, he meant it. And sometimes intelligence wears feathers and speaks softly. You are now stepping into the tense corridors of the White House, 1944. President Franklin D. Roosevelt had a Scottish terrier named Fala. He followed him everywhere, from press briefings to train rides. During a trip to Alaska, a rumor spread. Fala had been accidentally left behind and rescued at great taxpayer expense. FDR addressed the nation. "My little dog does not resent the attacks," he said. His Scottish soul was outraged. The crowd roared with laughter. That speech won public sympathy and helped secure Roosevelt's re-election. Fala remained by his side through war, policy, and peace. You can still visit his statue beside FDR's in Washington, D.C. Sometimes loyalty wags its tail and wins hearts. Hey friends, take a deep breath. We're heading back to 1640s America. In Manhattan, a local council wanted to enclose a muddy lane for livestock. One farmer released pigs onto it, illegally. They wandered, rooted, dug, so the council built a wall to keep them out. That wall became Wall Street. The pigs didn't know they were walking across future finance, but hoof prints pressed into mud would one day harden into money. You can almost hear their snorts echoing between tall glass towers, history hidden beneath concrete, all because a few pigs strayed off course. You are now inside a candlelit room in Vienna, 1784. A young Mozart purchases a starling. He plays a piano tune, and to his amazement, the bird sings it back, perfectly. The melody it mimicked hadn't been published. No one else had heard it. The starling became his companion. He walked with it, talked to it, laughed at its mispronunciations. When it died, Mozart held a funeral, with poetry, with music, with mourning. Scholars believe its influence echoes in his later compositions, fluttering trills, sudden pitch jumps, playful variations. Now imagine a black-feathered singer whistling in a room of genius. Tiny lungs, great inspiration. Even maestros need muses with wings. Hey friends, let's sail aboard the HMS Beagle. In 1835, Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands. There, he met a tortoise, massive, slow, ancient. He noticed each island's tortoises had slightly different shells. That tiny detail helped shape his theory of natural selection. That tortoise, named Harriet, was taken to England, later to Australia. She lived in a botanical garden, nibbling lettuce and sunbathing. She died in 2006, estimated age 176. Harriet met Darwin, outlived him, outlived his books. You can almost feel her leathery feet pressing into volcanic soil, her eyes blinking slowly at centuries. Evolution moved fast, she moved slow, but both changed the world. You are now walking through a quiet French village, Wubby-Wutu. The Nazis march in. Locals hide precious things, silver, books, and art. One farmer hides a stolen masterpiece in his barn. No locks, no alarms, just a goose. This goose, fiercely territorial, honks and charges at any stranger. One night, soldiers approach. The goose erupts, flapping, shrieking, biting. The men retreat. The painting, an original Pissarro, is never found by the invaders. Years later, it's discovered behind hay bales, unharmed. And the goose? She's stuffed and mounted in the town museum. Protection comes in many forms. Sometimes it waddles and honks. Hey friends, let's follow a trail across Alaska, 1925. A diphtheria outbreak hits Nome. Antitoxin is hundreds of miles away. Planes can't fly. Roads are snowed in. A dog sled relay begins. The final leg? A Siberian husky named Balto leads his team through whiteout conditions. He delivers the medicine safely, saving the town. Statues were built. Children cheered. Balto became a symbol of endurance, of connection, of breath steaming in the cold against impossible odds. You can almost hear the jingle of harness, the crunch of snow under padded feet. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they have tails. You are now dining in 18th century France. A waiter brings a new delicacy, ambergris. It's not food, but a whale byproduct, found floating in the sea. When burned, it smells divine. Perfumers begin adding it to royal fragrances. Nobility wears it, bathes in it, pays fortunes for it. But the demand endangers whales. One day a perfumer discovers a similar note in civet musk, then in flowers, then in synthetics, all because a fishy lump from the ocean once enchanted noses. Close your eyes and inhale. Imagine the salt breeze, the hint of vanilla, the scent of surprise, fragrance shaped by fins. Hey friends, drift back to 1948. New Mexico's skies are turning scientific. Before humans braved space, monkeys went first. One of the earliest? Albert Wurster, a rhesus monkey. He soared 39 miles high in a V-2 rocket. No orbit, but data, heart rate, oxygen levels, G-force reactions. Albert's flight paved the way for space capsules, pressure suits, countdown protocols. He didn't land safely, but he began a skyward path. Now imagine the silence of upper air, the hush before the stars, a heartbeat beneath fur. And though his name is now a footnote, his flight shaped the future. You are now in rural England, 1796. Dr. Edward Jenner notices something strange. Milkmaids who caught cowpox never got smallpox. He takes a risk. He scratches a boy's arm with pus from a cowpox blister, later exposes him to smallpox. The boy stays healthy. It's the first vaccine. The word vaccine comes from vacca, Latin for cow. That one gentle creature grazing in a meadow became the unwitting protector of millions. You can almost hear the lowing in twilight, the soft clink of milk pails, the dawn of modern medicine in a breath of hay. Healing whispered through hooves. Hey friends, you are now in a quiet apartment in 19th century Boston. Christopher Latham Scholes, the inventor of the typewriter, faced a challenge. His prototype kept jamming. The keys clattered too fast. One night, his daughter's cat strolled across the keys, soft paws pressing one letter at a time. Watching the deliberate pace, Scholes had an idea. Stagger the letters to slow things down. That layout became QWERTY. It wasn't the cat's intention, but her calm rhythm changed the world of writing forever. Imagine those tiny paw prints, pressing not just keys, but the future. Every email, every novel, every tweet owes a whisper to a wandering feline. You are now on the coast of Normandy, 1944. The air smells of salt and fear. Among the paratroopers was a dog, Bing, an Alsatian trained in explosives and parachuting. As planes flew over France, Bing jumped with his unit. He landed tangled in a tree, but freed himself and joined the fight. Bing sniffed out mines, found wounded soldiers. His presence steadied hearts in chaos. After the war, Bing received the Dickin Medal, the animal's Victoria Cross. You can almost see him now, eyes steady, paws ready, trotting into history with no idea how much he mattered. Some heroes bark, quietly. Hey friends, settle in beside a quiet garden. 1920s France. Scientist Charles Nicolle noticed something odd. Typhus spread in crowded spaces, but not in isolation. He studied lice, then rats, then rabbits. One rabbit, infected with typhus, was placed in a clean room. No other animals were harmed. But when a louse entered, the sickness spread. That simple act helped Nicolle prove the louse was the carrier. He won a Nobel Prize. Hygiene standards shifted. Lives were saved. And the rabbit? Just nibbled clover, unaware it had clarified a mystery. Discovery sometimes hops softly, leaving health in its trail. You are now watching a military parade, 1918 Canada. A goose marches beside soldiers of the 13th Battalion. Her name is Mary. She wears a custom-made uniform. She honks in rhythm with the drums. On the battlefield, she followed them too. During shelling, Mary was hit by shrapnel. Surgeons operated. She survived. Her story was shared in newspapers. Morale soared. She became a mascot of resilience. After the war, Mary lived out her days in peace, honored in poems and songs. Picture her strutting proudly, chest puffed, feathers ruffled by heroism. Even in war, softness finds a way to shine. Hey friends, tilt your head to a New York studio, 1950s. A Capuchin monkey named Peter was given paint, canvas, and time. What emerged? Swirls, blots, bursts of emotion. His owner, a psychologist, submitted Peter's works anonymously to modern art galleries. Critics praised the raw vision. Some called it genius. When revealed to be a monkey's work, outrage followed. But curiosity lingered. Peter's paw-painted chaos challenged ideas about authorship, intent, and instinct in creativity. You can almost hear the scratch of bristles, the flick of a tail, the silence between colors. And maybe, art was never meant to make sense. You are now drifting through the icy Pacific, 1972. The Soviet whaling ship Dalny Vostok is ready to hunt. Suddenly, a humpback whale surfaces between the harpoons and her calf. She doesn't flee. She stays. The crew hesitates. The captain pauses. For reasons unrecorded, they turn back. That moment, captured by a marine biologist, stirred a movement. The image of a mother whale shielding her young spread globally. Protests grew. Whaling bans followed. You can still hear the breath of ocean giants. Deep, patient, defiant. Sometimes, resistance needs no roar, just presence. Hey friends, take a stroll into a gentle lab in Norway, 1971. Researchers are studying how mice find their way through mazes. One mouse, darting carefully, helps reveal something extraordinary. Cells in the brain that fire in geometric patterns. Grid cells. This leads to the discovery of the brain's GPS, the system that maps space. Humans have it too. You used it today. And it started with a mouse sniffing corners, pausing at intersections, remembering the path. Science can be loud, but here it was a whisper of whiskers that showed the way. You are now beside Queen Elizabeth II in the rolling English countryside. Her horse, Burmese, was more than a steed. She carried the queen during 18 consecutive Trooping the Color ceremonies. In 1981, someone in the crowd fired blanks. Burmese did not bolt. She stayed calm, steady under pressure. That trust, that grace, became part of the queen's public image. When Burmese retired, she wasn't replaced. The queen chose to walk instead. Imagine the clip-clop of hooves, the rustle of silk, the silence between rider and beast. Sometimes loyalty isn't spoken, it's written. Hey friends, dip your fingers into cool pond water. In the 1960s, scientists noticed something alarming. Frogs, once abundant, were disappearing. Many had deformities, extra legs, missing eyes. Frogs breathe through their skin. They are early indicators of environmental change. Their decline led to research into pesticides, habitat destruction, and climate shifts. And from these little amphibians, global awareness grew. Now conservation efforts listen for their croaks, like a heartbeat of ecosystems. You can almost hear them, hidden in reeds, whispering truths we didn't want to see. The earth speaks softly, often, through frogs. You are now walking through the cobblestone streets of Woowoo, London. A British codebreaker notices something strange. Her cat, Felix, always growls at one colleague, only him. She investigates, finds notes in his coat. He's passing secrets to the enemy. The man is arrested. The leak stops. Felix is unofficially credited. His instincts sharper than suspicion. His growl, a warning wrapped in fur. No medals were given. But the cat's dish was never empty again. Sometimes vigilance sits in a windowsill, tail twitching, and safety wears whiskers. Hey friends, close your eyes and imagine golden sand shifting beneath your feet. In 1922, archaeologist Howard Carter searched endlessly for the tomb of King Tutankhamun. One morning, his team's dog, a terrier named Amber, became restless. She sniffed, scratched, and pawed at a patch of ground. Workers dug and dug. There, beneath the soil, they found a step, then a staircase, then a sealed door. The tomb of Tutankhamun was no longer a myth. Amber didn't understand the stir of ancient kings, but her nose rewrote history. So next time you pass a digging dog, wonder what treasures sleep beneath your feet. Sometimes it's not patience, it's pause. You are now diving into warm ocean waters, 1938 South Africa. A local fisherman pulls up something strange. A blue-finned fish with thick scales and lobe-like fins. Scientists gasp. It's a coelacanth, thought to have gone extinct 65 million years ago. But here it is, alive, swimming. The discovery shattered beliefs about extinction and evolution. If this fish survived the dinosaurs, what else might linger in the deep? You can almost feel the water swirl around it as ancient eyes blink in silence. Truth sometimes hides behind gills, and the past isn't always past. Hey friends, step into a rainy courtyard in 1870s Belgium. The post is slow, roads are muddy, so someone suggests an idea: cats. 37 cats are trained to carry messages in waterproof bags. Released from a central office, they race to their destinations. One arrives in under 5 hours, another takes a full day, pausing for naps. The experiment ends quickly, but it captures imaginations. Though impractical, it inspires discussions on alternate delivery systems, including early pneumatic tubes and drone concepts. Now picture a determined tabby, darting through hedges, tail up, message swaying from her collar. Sometimes invention meows before it roars. You are now in the Andes, centuries before modern clocks. Incan farmers track time not by stars, but by cows. More precisely, the breeding patterns of their sacred cattle. When cows began calving, they knew rains were near. Their entire agricultural cycle revolved around bovine rhythms: planting, harvesting, storing. The animals became living timekeepers. If the cows calved late, the harvest would be poor. If early, abundance awaited. Even now, in some Quechua communities, cow fertility remains part of rural almanacs. Imagine the soft shuffle of hooves at dawn, the hush of ritual beside a warming fire. Time marked not in numbers but in life. Hey friends, lean in for a buzzing mystery. In 1970s England, a rare orchid was stolen from a conservatory. No clues, no footprints, except one. A single bee was found dead on the scene. A rare pollinator, specific to that orchid's habitat. Scientists traced the bee's origin. It led to a private greenhouse 30 miles away. There, the missing plant sat in bloom. The thief confessed. It wasn't a detective who solved the case. It was a bee, a tiny winged witness with no need for words. Even in silence, nature testifies. And sometimes pollen tells the truth. You are now in colonial America, 1765. British taxes stir unrest. Meetings are held in taverns and town halls. One day, a pig escapes a local butcher in Boston. Children chase it. Crowds gather. Someone gives a speech about liberty, about rights. Coins are collected to save the pig. That money is quietly redirected to printing anti-British pamphlets. The pig, now a symbol, appears in cartoons, snout raised, carrying scrolls. Historians call it the pork protest. The pig, blissfully unaware, continued rooting in alleyways. But beneath its muddy trotters, a revolution found footing. Freedom sometimes walks on hooves. Hey friends, feel the warmth of Sicily beneath your feet. Mount Etna rumbled, 1669. Villagers weren't sure if eruption was coming, but in a quiet home near the summit, a caged canary stopped singing. Then another, then dozens. Locals took notice. They evacuated early. When Etna erupted days later, many were already gone. The birds, sensitive to gas and pressure, had sounded the first alarm. To this day, some farmers still watch the birds more than the news. Silence, when it comes from songbirds, can save lives. And warnings don't always scream. They whisper. You are now on a battlefield in 16th century France. Food is scarce. Morale, lower still. One morning, a soldier's goat escapes into a meadow and returns, udders full. They milk her, then again and again. Soon, the goat becomes the regiment's lifeline. Soldiers take turns protecting her. They call her mother. She feeds dozens, keeps spirits high. When the war ends, she's retired to a quiet farm, decorated with a ribbon, remembered in song. Imagine the soft clink of tin cups, the warmth of milk at dawn, the laughter of men softened by her gaze. Victory sometimes smells of hay. Hey friends, step into windswept Scotland, 1800s. Poet Robert Burns found solace in his dog, Luath. She walked with him, slept by his hearth, sat through his scribbling. When Luath died, Burns wrote The Twa Dogs, a poem that humanized laborers, comparing their struggles to noble beasts. It was one of his most beloved works. Luath didn't write, she didn't rhyme, but she inspired a pen that stirred hearts across continents. Now imagine her curled beside the fire, eyes soft, tail still. Words may shape nations, but love shapes words. You are now drifting through deep blue 1960s Pacific. Scientists drop a microphone into the water and freeze. A whale is singing, not just sounds but patterns, repeating, rising, falling. It's the first recording of a humpback whale song. Released to the public, it becomes a hit, played on radio, sent into space aboard Voyager. The public, moved by this haunting ocean music, pushes for marine protection. Laws change, whaling declines. And all because one whale sang to the stars. Soft, mournful, eternal. In the vastest silence, melody found meaning. Hey friends, settle in near a London hearth, 1940. During the Blitz, a tabby named Faith lived in St. Augustine's Church near St. Paul's Cathedral. But one day she carried her kitten upstairs, placed it behind the altar, and left. Later that night, a bomb destroyed the crypt. The upper level, untouched. She returned calmly, fed her kitten, sat near the pews. Parishioners began watching her movements. She became a living warning system. When Faith hid, so did they. Eventually, she was awarded a silver medal for bravery. A soft purr once echoed louder than sirens. And sometimes Faith wears fur. You are now beside the Nile, golden light glittering on the surface. The Egyptians revered one fish above others, the Nile perch. Its spawning patterns aligned with the river's annual flooding. Each year, As the fish returned, they signaled fertility, crop readiness, and renewal. Their movements became part of temple calendars. Pharaohs built monuments predicting their appearance. Priests used them to interpret blessings. Farmers waited for their shadow. You can almost hear the soft splash in moonlit water, the murmur of reeds, the pause of time wrapped in a ripple. And in the rhythm of one fish, Egypt found its pulse. Hey friends, let's travel to medieval France. In many villages, the only public timekeeper was a rooster. His crow signaled start times for prayer, trade, and rest. Over time, language shifted. The French word matin, morning, became associated with his cry. In rural dialects, words like chanticleer entered poetry, rooted in rooster lore. Writers like Chaucer and La Fontaine gave him character, wise, foolish, heroic. He didn't just wake people up, he shaped how they spoke of time, of rhythm, of routine. Imagine the crisp break of dawn, feathers rustling in mist, a single note cracking open the day. Words sometimes begin with wings. You are now in a quiet lab in Germany, 2004. A woman with cancer noticed something strange. Her dog kept sniffing a mole on her leg. Doctors examined it. Melanoma, early stage. She was saved. Researchers tested more dogs. One by one, they identified lung, bladder, and breast cancers by scent, far before medical tests did. These dogs didn't cure, they noticed. Hospitals began trials. Lives changed. Now imagine a nose twitching beside your chair, a wag of concern, a breath that knows more than we do. Healing doesn't always begin in machines. Sometimes it starts with a nuzzle. Hey friends, let's walk slowly into 18th century England. A writer named Gilbert White observed a tortoise named Timothy for over 40 years. He documented her waking times, eating habits, favorite hiding spots. Timothy became the subject of one of the first true naturalist journals. Readers were enchanted. The diary's quiet reflections on a single life helped birth modern ecology. Timothy didn't do tricks. She just existed, softly, repeatedly, honestly. You can still read White's gentle notes about her sleepy eyes, her fondness for strawberries, her rustling shell in tall grass. Sometimes presence is the lesson, and patience the teacher. You are now in Midtown Manhattan, 1906. A cow escaped from a slaughterhouse and ran wild through city streets for hours. Dodging trams, jumping fences, leaping into fountains, crowds gathered. Newspapers chronicled her every move. She was dubbed Madam Cud, and her run sparked debates on animal rights, meat consumption, and urban farming. After her capture, protests followed. The public began demanding better treatment for livestock. The cow became a folk hero. A statue was proposed, but never built. Still, the echo of her hooves stirred thought, and a city paused for a single act of defiance on four legs. Hey friends, settled beside an early radio in 1930s America. Jimmy the chimpanzee was brought on as a guest for a children's radio hour. He wore headphones, banged on a drum, and mimicked sounds. He became so popular that letters poured in. Kids copied his routines, parents laughed, advertisers called. Soon, Jimmy was featured on variety shows. One network even ran a weekly Monkey Time segment. But behind the laughter, he helped media producers realize something. Engagement mattered more than formality. Radio shifted, scripts relaxed, characters flourished, and a little chimp helped define entertainment. Sometimes genius comes with a banana. You are now in Austin, Texas, 1990s. A rare burrowing owl was found nesting in a lot slated for development. Environmentalists petitioned. The city paused. That one owl delayed a shopping center, forced an ecological review, and eventually reshaped local zoning laws to protect green corridors. She didn't hoot protests. She didn't fly banners. She nested. And the city listened. Today, parts of Austin's wild spaces owe their preservation to her. Soft feathers, firm roots. Sometimes change lands quietly and blinks at the moon. Hey friends, let's sit in the shadows of Petrograd, 1917. As revolution swept the streets, one cat remained in the Winter Palace. Photographers later captured her curled on a velvet throne, amid shattered glass and empty rooms. She became a symbol of what once was, of what remained, of what couldn't be seized. People whispered stories about her, that she outlasted czars, that she refused to leave. No one knew her name, but her photograph outlived emperors. And in the silence after history, there she was, curled, still, watching. You are now in Athens, 2008. During mass protests, a dog named Lucanicos appeared. He stood beside demonstrators, barked at riot police, and became a symbol of resistance. Photos of him circled the world, snarling beside tear gas, sleeping under protest banners, licking wounds. He wasn't trained, he chose his place. Graffiti of his image spread across Europe. When he passed, candlelight vigils were held. People wrote poems, planted trees. Lucanicos didn't chant or march, he stood. Sometimes solidarity has 4 paws and a fierce heart. And when streets speak, dogs remember the echoes. Hey friends, take a slow stroll through 19th century America. In 1828, critics mocked Andrew Jackson, calling him a jackass. Instead of rejecting the insult, Jackson embraced it, placing a strong, stubborn donkey on his campaign posters. The image stuck. Later, cartoonist Thomas Nast used the donkey to represent Jackson's Democratic Party and the elephant for Republicans. Today, that donkey still walks beside speeches, buttons, ballots, and all because of one insult, accepted with a wink. Sometimes dignity doesn't protest, it brays. And political identity, strange as it seems, once began with 4 hooves and a tail. You are now adrift in cold Atlantic waters. 1975. A Greenpeace boat approaches a Russian whaling fleet. Activists place themselves between harpoons and a pod of whales. Then something happens. A harpoon is fired. One whale turns, not in fear, but toward the activists. It places itself between them and the harpoon. The moment is caught on film. The world watches. Outrage spreads. Protests rise. Countries ban commercial whaling. The whale was never named. It vanished beneath the waves. But its act, however instinctive, saved thousands. Imagine the deep hush of ocean, the rise of breath from a gentle giant. Sometimes guardians emerge from the depths. Hey friends, wander with me into the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. Beneath oil paintings and marble floors, an army of cats has lived for centuries, protecting priceless art from rodents. During World War II, when siege starved the city, the cats disappeared. Rats took over. Paintings suffered. After the siege lifted, a train arrived. Not with weapons, but cats. Dozens of them. They were given jobs, names, feeding schedules. Today, over 50 cats live in the museum's basement. Some wear collars. Some nap near Rembrandts. Culture, it turns out, is guarded by whiskers. And beauty sometimes walks on silent paws. You are now on a green hillside in Wales, 19th century. 2 farmers argue over whose sheepdog is better. To settle it, they stage a competition. Who can guide their flock fastest through a gate? A crowd gathers. Bets are placed. Cheers rise. The event spreads. It becomes formal, international, televised. Sheepdog trials are now an honored sport, showcasing trust, instinct, and quiet command. And it all began with one ewe turning left instead of right. Sometimes sport isn't spectacle, it's rhythm. And brilliance wears a bell and a thick wool coat. Hey friends, lean into a smoky room in World War II London. At an intelligence office, a parrot named Percy listens daily to conversations between codebreakers. One day Percy starts saying phrases like Enigma cracked and North Sea Patrol. Panicked officials realize if Percy escaped, he could compromise national security. Percy is placed in protective custody, fed grapes, taught harmless phrases. He survives the war. You can still hear his squawk in archived tapes. Loose lips sink ships. And truly, even feathers can carry fragile truths. Some security risks have wings and very good memories. You are now beneath a Bodhi tree in ancient India. A young boy watches an elephant bathe in a river. The elephant moves with grace, balance, awareness. Years later, that boy, Siddhartha Gautama, becomes the Buddha. He teaches lessons inspired by animals, the patience of oxen, the wisdom of snakes, the mindfulness of elephants. In Buddhist art, elephants symbolize mental clarity, strength without force, peace without passivity. To this day, they march across temples, carved into stone, painted on prayer flags. Not all wisdom roars. Some simply walks with great presence. Hey friends, you're now in Cambodia's rice fields. Meet hero rats, African giant pouched rats trained to detect landmines. They're light enough not to trigger them, and their noses can find explosives faster than machines. One rat named Magawa cleared over 100,000 square meters. He saved countless lives. When he retired, he received a gold medal. He lived out his days in comfort, his tiny paws never forgetting the weight of the world he walked across. In fields once feared, flowers now grow. Sometimes heroes scurry softly, and peace begins beneath tiny feet. You are now watching a kite dance in the sky over ancient China. Below, a scholar observes a monkey leaping from tree to tree, gliding from branch to branch with arms outstretched. It sparks an idea. Could humans mimic that movement? Could we shape wind? The first recorded flight attempts soon follow. Paper kites, silk gliders, bamboo wings. Centuries later, the Wright brothers cite early Chinese flying devices in their studies. And in the background of it all, a monkey once soared through forest shadows. Flight, perhaps, was always closer than we thought. Hey friends, feel the buzz of 1990s America. A blind woman with a guide dog is denied entry to a restaurant. She sues, not for herself, but for others like her. The case reaches national headlines. Her dog, Orlando, becomes a symbol of independence. Soon after, lawmakers strengthen the Americans with Disabilities Act. Orlando never sat in court. He sat beside her, but his presence shaped policy. Imagine the soft jingle of his harness, the calm focus in his eyes, the quiet power in his paws. Accessibility walked in with a tail wag. You are now standing beneath a eucalyptus tree in Australia. On one high branch sits a cockatoo named Cocky Bennett. He lived in a hotel lobby for over 120 years, greeting guests, imitating voices, witnessing colonial transitions, gold rushes, world wars. He saw empires rise and fall. Tourists came just to hear him say, "You're drunk again, George." When he passed, obituaries ran in 3 continents. A bird, a witness, a timekeeper. He wasn't caged, he was celebrated. And as he blinked into the sunrise, perhaps even he wondered how time had flown.